Hi everyone, I'm Zioo from Susan's family. Today, I'll be showing you an Indian geometric blanket. It's crocheted with high quality yarn, making it very thick and sturdy. You can use it as a floor mat or as a blanket. Moreover, the color scheme of the blanket incorporates Indian elements. It's bold and vibrant, full of exotic charm. Meanwhile, the making method is simple. If you need to buy the original materials kit and get crocheting guidance, please search for susud.com on the website. Now, let's begin. The blanket consists of the main piece and the tassel decorations. First, crochet the main piece, then make the tassels and attach them to the main piece. Now, let's start learning how to make the main piece. Here's the finished product. The main piece is made up of individual motifs. First, crochet the corresponding number of motifs separately. Then join the motifs together. Finally, crochet the edging around the piece. Let me show you how to crochet a single motif. The crocheting method for all motifs is the same. The only differences are in the styles and color schemes. There are 6 kinds of motif in total. I'll demonstrate using motif 1 as an example. A motif is divided into the main part and the single crochets around. First, crochet the main part of the motif. Then, along the outer edge of the main part, work a round of single crochets. Let's take a look at the pattern chart. Start with a foundation chain. Crochet back and forth upward along the foundation chain. Work single crochets for each row. During the process, change colors. To create the mosaic design, a variety of yarns will be used. When crocheting with one yarn, you need to weave the other yarns in as you crochet. Now, let me demonstrate the method specifically. First, let's start with a foundation chain. Take out the corresponding yarn to make it easier to see. I'll demonstrate using cotton yarn. The colors are random for specific yarns, color schemes, and hook sizes. Please refer to the product details page and the pattern chart. Wrap the yarn tail once around your left little finger. Pass it through between your middle finger and index finger. Then pinch the yarn tail with your thumb and middle finger. Hold the crochet hook with your right hand. Position it below the yarn. Wrap the yarn counterclockwise. Use your left thumb and middle finger to pinch the crossing point of the loop. Put the hook on the left side of your yarn. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through. This slip knot does not count as a stitch. Slightly tighten. Then, we'll start chaining. Yarn over and draw through. A chain stitch is now complete. This V-shaped loop represents one stitch. Continue chaining. Yarn over and draw through. This is the second stitch. Repeat the process. Continue chaining. Keep going until you complete the required number of stitches. Please refer to the chart for the exact stitch count. 3, 4, 5. After completing it, on the last stitch, pick up the 2 strands on the edge. Then place a stitch marker. If you don't have one, you can also use a safety pin or a paperclip. This completes the foundation chain. Next, we'll work on the first row. First, make a turning chain. It does not count as a stitch. Then, work one single crochet. Let's take a look. The front of a chain is a V-shaped loop. With the hook pick up the back loop of the marked chain. It's a strand like this. Pay attention while crocheting here. You need to weave in the other 2 colors of yarn. I'll use random colors of yarn. Combine the yarn tails like this. Reserve about 5 centimeters at the start. Place it above the hook. Draw through. Now there are 2 loops on your hook. Yarn over and draw through at once. 1 single crochet is done. On the upper right, there's a V-shaped loop. This is the stitch of a single crochet. Place the stitch marker into this stitch. Move on to the next stitch. Since the next stitch is in another color, so we should change the yarn at this stitch. In the adjacent chain on the left, work an incomplete single crochet. Keep these 2 strands of yarn above the crochet hook. Bring the yarn tails from the right side over, and place them above the hook as well. Weave them in as you go. Yarn over. Pull the yarn through. 1 incomplete single crochet is done. Then pick up the corresponding color of yarn. Refer specifically to the chart. Pay attention to picking up the long tail end. With this strand of yarn, finish this single crochet. Yarn over and draw through all the loops on the hook. The second single crochet is complete. The color change is also finished. Next, with this strand, work 1 single crochet and change the color. An incomplete single crochet first. After completing, gently pull the woven in yarn tail. Stretch the fabric piece on the right side a little. This will make the area where the yarn tail is woven in look neater. Then pick up the corresponding color of yarn from behind. Make sure to grab the long yarn tail. With this strand of yarn, finish this stitch. Then, in the next chain, work 1 single crochet. Note to weave in the yarn tail. Let's take a look at the color changing method. If you need to change the color for the next stitch, work an incomplete single crochet in this stitch. Then switch to the corresponding yarn to complete it. After finishing the incomplete stitch, remember to stretch the yarn tail and the fabric piece. This will make it look flatter. Once completed, use this yarn strand to continue crocheting. This row involves working single crochets into the chains at the bottom. While crocheting, you need to weave in the other color of yarns. And color changes required during the process. Refer to the chart for the exact position. Color changes are always done on incomplete stitches. When crocheting with one color, make sure to stretch the yarn tail and fabric piece during the color change. This keeps the fabric piece flatter. And during the crocheting process, if the yarns become crossed, be sure to separate them in time. Following these steps, complete the second to last stitch on the left side. Now it's the last stitch. First, check the chart. For the color of the first stitch in row 2, it is different from the color of the last stitch in this row. In that case, you need to change colors on the last stitch. Switch to the color of the first stitch in the next row. Row 1 is done. Now let's check the stitch count. You can count the V-shaped loops. The number of them is the number of stitches you worked. It should match the number of starting foundation chains. Next, let's distinguish the right side from the wrong side. The side facing us now is the right side. The other side is the wrong side. Mark the right side with a stitch marker. Now work the second row. Work a turning chain. Then turn the piece counterclockwise. Pick the single crochet stitch below. Work one single crochet and switch the color at the same time. Pay attention, because you're working on the back of the previous row. The corresponding stitch is the V-shaped loop above the left side of the single crochet. That means you need to work picking up these two strands. Remember to weave in the yarn tail. After completing, mark it. Then pick the next stitch on the left. Work one single crochet and switch the color. Don't forget to weave in the yarn tail. This row involves working single crochets evenly into each stitch of the previous row. Color changes are required in the middle. When crocheting with one color, make sure to weave in the other colors of yarns. While crocheting, remember to stretch the yarn tails and the fabric piece. This will keep the woven in parts flatter. If the threads cross, make sure to separate them promptly. Pay attention to these points as you continue crocheting. I won't repeat them again later. Following these steps, complete the second to last stitch of this row. Now we're at the last stitch. The color of the first stitch in the next row is same as this one, so continue crocheting with this yarn, and there is no need to switch the color. This completes the second row. Move on to the third row. Work one turning chain. Then turn the piece counterclockwise. Pick up the stitch below. Work a single crochet. Pay attention to weaving in the yarns. Mark it. This row involves working single crochets evenly into each stitch of the previous row. The method is the same as for the second row, there's just a slight difference in color changes. Following these steps, crochet all the way to the second to last stitch of this row. Now we've reached the last stitch. Considering the color of the first stitch in the next row, continue crocheting. This completes the third row. Now, I'll explain the remaining part. Using the finished product, every subsequent row involves working single crochets evenly. While crocheting, weave in the other colors of yarn. During the process, make sure to work a turning chain at the start of each row, and mark the first stitch of each row. Color changes are required during crocheting. Refer to the chart for specific positions. Pay attention when crocheting the last stitch. You need to consider the color of the first stitch in the next row. If the color is same as this stitch, continue crocheting with this yarn. If they're different, change the color at this stitch. Later, if a single color is used for many stitches, stretch the yarn tail and piece after every 5 stitches. This will help keep the woven in part flat. While crocheting, make sure to separate any crossing yarns in timely. The method is quite simple, so I won't demonstrate it. Next, I'll use this sample to show you how to count rows. Odd-numbered rows show the right side of single crochet, which appears as individual V shapes. Even-numbered rows show the wrong side, and there's a strand running across the top. You can simply alternate, counting the right and wrong sides. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is how you count rows. When crocheting back and forth, after completing, fasten off the yarn. I'll demonstrate the method with this sample. Chain 1 to secure. Then stretch the loop. Leave a tail of about 10 centimeters. Cut off the yarn. Pull tight. The woven-in yarns should also leave a tail of about 10 centimeters. Trim them off. These yarn tails can be woven in while you crochet single crochets around the outer edge. This completes the crocheting of the motif's main part. Next, work single crochets around the outer edge. Start by joining the yarn. Refer to the chart for specific yarns. I'll use random colors for my sample. Take out the main part. I'll demonstrate with this solid colored swatch. Make sure the right side of the fabric is facing you. Locate the second stitch from the right side of the last row. Join the yarn. Place the yarn tail behind this stitch. Leave a little yarn tail to start. Insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Chain 1 to secure. Pull tight. The joining is now complete. Work a turning chain. Insert into the next stitch. Work a single crochet. While crocheting, weave in the yarn tail at the start. Mark this stitch. Continue working single crochets evenly in the left stitches. Pay attention to weaving in the yarn tail while crocheting. Follow this method until you complete the second to last stitch. Now we've reached the last stitch. Make an SC2 in 1. That is working 2 single crochets into the same stitch. One, 2. 1 SC2 in 1 is complete. Next, rotate the piece a little. Then insert into the edge between the second to last row and the last row. Work a single crochet. While crocheting, weave in the yarn tails. Next, insert into the space between 2 rows on the left and work a single crochet. Then continue to insert into the spaces between every 2 rows and work single crochets evenly. Follow this method and keep going all the way down to the space between the first and the second rows. After completing, rotate the piece slightly. Pick up the 2 remaining yarn loops of the foundation chain, which is inserting into the insertion point for the single crochet below. Work a SC2 in 1. While crocheting, weave in the starting yarn tail. That completes an SC2 in 1. Next, pick up the remaining 2 loops of the next stitch. Work a single crochet. Then continue picking up the remaining 2 loops of the chains and work single crochets evenly. Following this method, finish the second stitch from the left. Now there is 1 chain remaining. Pick up these 2 loops and work an SC2 in 1. After completing, rotate the piece slightly. Next, pick up the spaces between rows and work single crochets evenly. Following this method, finish the stitches in all the spaces on this side. After completing, rotate the piece on the stitch on the left side. Make an SC2 in 1. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the marked position. Insert the hook. Yarn over and draw through. And pull through all the loops at once. The slip stitch does not count as a stitch. Pull tight. This completes the single crochets around the outer edge of the motif's main part. Finally, chain 1 to secure. Then stretch the loop. Leave a tail of about 10 centimeters. Cut off the yarn. Tighten it up. Weave in the yarn tail on the wrong side. You can weave it in more stitches. I won't demonstrate it here. The stitch marker for marking the right side can also be removed. You can identify the right and wrong sides based on the texture of the first row. Here, you need to crochet a total of 16 different motifs. For specific color schemes and quantities, you can refer to the chart. The method can be referenced from the previous demonstration. That concludes the instructions of crocheting the motifs. Next, let's join the motifs together. Here's the finished product. There are a total of 16 motifs, arranged in a 4x4 layout, joined together to form a square shape. Each individual motif is rectangular. When joining, align the long edges with the long edges, and the short edges with the short edges. The arrangement order is random. You can refer to the finished product image, or adjust according to your preference. When connecting, it's divided into horizontal and vertical joins. Horizontal join means joining the long edges of the motifs together. Let's start with the horizontal join first. Next, I will show you the specific steps. I'll demonstrate with 6 motifs as an example. First, number the motifs. There are 2 rows in total. The first row from right to left is motif A, motif B, and motif C. The second row is motif D, motif E, and motif F. From right to left, join them together. Let's start by joining motif A and motif D. Place the 2 motifs with their wrong sides facing each other. Align the 2 short edges. Motif A is at the front, and motif D is at the back. Hold them in your hands. Start from the outermost stitch, and join them with slip stitches. Take out the corresponding yarn. For details, refer to the chart. Wrap the yarn around your left hand. And locate the front motif, which is motif A, in the left stitch of the SC2 in 1. Join the yarn. Remember to leave a little yarn tail. After completing, in the same position, work 1 slip stitch. Note to insert the hook from the right side. This slip stitch should not be pulled tight. Then find the corresponding stitch on motif D. Which is the left stitch of the SC2 in 1. Insert the hook from the right side, and work a slip stitch. It should also not be tightened. None of the following slip stitches need to be tightened. I won't mention it later. Next, in the adjacent stitch on motif A, work a slip stitch. Then, in the adjacent stitch on motif D, work a slip stitch. Note to insert from the front side. Then, you can simply alternate between working slip stitches in two motifs, one at the front and the other at the back. When crocheting, always insert the hook from the right side. In this way, work until you finish the right stitches of the SC2 in 1 on the left side of these two motifs, which are the inner stitches. After completing, don't fasten off. Then, take out motif B and motif B. Place them with their wrong sides facing each other. Align the short edges. Motif B should be in front, and motif E at the back. First, at this SC2 in 1 of motif B, in the inner stitch, make one slip stitch. Then, in the corresponding stitch on motif E, work a slip stitch. Then, one at the front, and the other at the back. Alternate between working slip stitches in two motifs. Continue all the way down to the inner stitch of the SC2 in 1 on the left side. Now we've joined motif B and motif E together. Then, using the same method, join motif C and motif F. When joining, place the two motifs with their wrong sides facing each other, and the short edges aligned. Motif C should be in front, motif F should be at the back. Then join with slip stitches. From right to left, join the inner stitches of the SC2 in 1 on both sides. And the stitches between, together. Once completed, leave a long yarn tail and fasten off. Finally, weave in ends on the wrong side. The method is simple, so I won't demonstrate it. Here, I use 6 motifs as an example. This is what the sample looks like after completing the horizontal join. When you're crocheting, for the joining from row 3 onward, you can all follow this method. Now let's work the vertical join. The method is the same as the horizontal join. The sample need to be joined twice. Work from top to bottom. Let's join motif D and motif E first. Place the two motifs with their wrong sides facing each other. Align the long edges. Attach the yarn to the inner stitch of the SC2 in 1 on the right side. Then join with slip stitches, one at the front and one at the back. In this way, work until you finish the inner stitch of the SC2-in-1 on the left side. Now we've reached the intersection of 4 motifs. Next, let's join motif A and motif B. Also, join the inner stitches of the SC2-in-1 on both sides. And the stitches between together with slip stitches. In this way, join the 2 motifs together. Once completed, fasten off the yarn and weave in the beginning and ending yarn tails. The method is quite simple, so I won't demonstrate it again. This completes a vertical join. Now, let me explain the vertical join on the left side. The method is the same. Join the 2 motifs on top first. Then join the 2 at the bottom. Pay attention not to twist the joining position in the middle. The method is simple. I will skip the demonstration. This is what the join sample looks like. The real joined blanket is rectangular in shape. It has 2 short edges and 2 long edges. That concludes the explanation of joining motifs. Next, we'll crochet the border. Let's take a look at the chart. It consists of 3 rounds. All are crocheted in rounds. Color changes are required during the process. In addition to the stitch techniques used before, we'll work half double crochets, HDC2 tog, and HDC 3-in-1. Let me show you the specific steps. Let's start with round 1. It includes the edges and corners. There are 4 edges and 4 corners. Let's start with the first edge. Take out the corresponding yarn. Refer to the chart. Hold the yarn with your left hand. Then pick up the joined motifs. Here, I'll use a sample for demonstration. When crocheting, attach the yarn to any short edge. Since there are fewer motifs in the sample, the long and short edges here are exactly the opposite for the actual project, so I'll just demonstrate the method. On the motif at the upper right corner of the short edge, at the SC2-in-1 on the right, its adjacent stitch on the left, attach the yarn. After that, make 2 turning chains. It counts as a half double crochet. In the second chain, pick up the 2 strands on the edge. Place a marker. Then, in the next stitch on the left, work a half double crochet. Yarn over. Insert the hook. Place the reserved yarn tail above the hook. Weave in the end as you go. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through. Now there are 3 loops on the hook. Yarn over. And draw through at once. 1 half double crochet is complete. On the upper right, there's a V-shaped loop like this. This is the stitch of the half double crochet. Next, in the adjacent stitch on the left, work a half double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook. Pay attention to weaving in the end. Yarn over, draw the yarn through, yarn over again, pull through all the loops on the hook. That completes another half double crochet. Counting in the turning chain, we've worked 3 half double crochets. We'll consider the stitch pattern of 3 half double crochets as pattern A. Next, on the left 2 stitches, work 1 HDC2 tog. First, work an incomplete half double crochet, yarn over, insert the hook. Pull the yarn through. 1 incomplete half double crochet is done. Next, on the left stitch, work another incomplete half double crochet, yarn over again, insert the hook. Draw the yarn through. Now there are 5 loops on the hook. Yarn over, and draw through at once. 1 HDC2 tog is complete. Next, work 1 half double crochet in each of the 3 stitches on the left side, which means working a pattern A. After completing, work a HDC2 tog. First, work 1 incomplete half double crochet in each of the 2 stitches on the left side. One, 2. Then yarn over, and draw through all the loops on the hook. 1 HDC2 toff is complete. Let's review the stitches we just worked. First, we crocheted a pattern A. Then we made 1 HDC2 tog, then repeat a pattern A. And 1 HDC2 tog. Then, you can simply alternate between a pattern A and 1 HDC2 tog. In this way, complete the inner stitch of the SC2 in 1. On the left side of the motif. Now we've reached the joining point. Work 1 HDC2 tog. First, pick up 2 strands at the joining point. Work an incomplete half double crochet. Next, pick up the first stitch of this motif. Work 1 more incomplete half double crochet. Then yarn over, and pull through all loops on the hook. This way, we've worked 1 HDC2 tog at the joining point, and the first stitch of the next motif. Continue alternating. Bet 1 a pattern A and 1 HDC2 tog. Until you reach the joining point between 2 motifs. After completing, pick up 2 strands at the joining point, and the first stitch of the next motif. Work 1 HDC2 tog. For subsequent joining points, always pick up the 2 strands and the first stitch of the next motif. Then work 1 HDC2 tog. Keep alternating a pattern A and 1 HDC2 tog in the other stitches. In this way, complete the inner stitch of the SC2 in 1 on the left side of the leftmost motif. This way, we've finished one edge. Take a look. It consists of alternating a pattern A and 1 HDC2 tog when there's a joining point. Always work 1 HDC2 tog. Next, there's a corner. Rotate the piece slightly. Work 1 HDC3 in 1. That is, in the same stitch, work 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3. This completes one corner. For the remaining corners, after rotating the piece, in the adjacent stitch, work 1 HDC3 in 1. Then move on to the second edge. All you do is picking up the stitches and working half double crochets evenly. In this way, work until you reach the joining point between 2 motifs. Now we've reached the joining point. Pick up 2 strands here and work 1 half double crochet. Then continue to work half double crochets evenly. Keep going until you finish the inner stitch of the SC2 in 1. On the left side of the leftmost motif. Once completed, rotate your piece. Start crocheting the second corner. In the left stitch, 1 HDC3 in 1 is done. At the same time, the second corner is now complete. Move on to the third edge. The method is the same as for the first one. Alternate crocheting a pattern A and 1 HDC2 tog. At the joining point of 2 motifs, work 1 HDC2 tog. In this way, finish this edge. Once done, rotate your piece. Crochet the third corner. Then move on to the fourth edge. The method is the same as for the second one. Work half double crochets evenly into each stitch on the left. At the joining point of two motifs, work a half double crochet. Following this method, finish the fourth edge. It's a fairly simple technique, so I won't demonstrate it again. Once done, rotate your piece. On the left stitch, work the last corner. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the marked position. This slip stitch does not count as a stitch. Pull tight directly. The first round is now complete. After finishing, fasten off the yarn. Chain 1 to secure. Leave a little yarn tail. Cut it off. Tighten it up. Move on to the second round. Start by attaching the yarn to the marked position. This round also consists of edges and corners. Work 2 turning chains. Place a marker on the second stitch. Picking up the stitches from the previous round, work half double crochets evenly. While crocheting, weave in the yarn tails here. Following this method, continue working until you reach the first corner. Now we've reached the corner. In the rightmost stitch of the HDC 3-in-1 below, work 1 half double crochet. Then, on the middle stitch, work 1 HDC 3-in-1. Next, on the left stitch, work 1 more half double crochet. That completes one corner. It's crocheted at the corner position of the previous round. You'll crochet all subsequent corners in the same way. Specifically, at the corner of the previous round, in the middle stitch, work 1 HDC 3-in-1, and work 1 half double crochet in each side stitch. For the remaining edges, just work half double crochets evenly in the stitches from the previous round. Following these steps, complete this round. The method is quite simple, so I won't demonstrate it. Finally, join with a slip stitch to the marked position. Tighten it up. That completes round 2. After finishing, don't fasten off. Next, I'll explain how to crochet round 3. For round 3, you will also crochet 4 edges and 4 corners. Start with a turning chain of 2 stitches. Mark it. Then alternate crocheting an edge and a corner. For the edges, just work half double crochets evenly into the stitches of the edges from the previous round. For the corners, in the middle stitch of the corner from the previous round, Crochet 1 HDC 3-in-1 in the remaining stitches on either side. Work 1/2 double crochet. Don't work the slip stitch at the end. Following this method, complete this round. The technique is relatively simple. I won't demonstrate it. When you reach the end of round 3, you need to fasten off. Here, I'll demonstrate the method. First, at the marked position, work 1 slip stitch. Insert your hook into the marked stitch. Yarn over. Draw the yarn through. Pull through all the loops on your hook. That completes 1 slip stitch. This is the chain formed by the slip stitch. Treat it as the first stitch. After finishing, stretch the loop. Leave a yarn tail of about 10 centimeters. Cut it off. Then count 2 stitches to the left from the stitch marker. 1, 2. Insert your hook into this stitch, which is the third stitch of this round, from the back side. Pull through the reserved yarn tail. Then insert your hook into the previous slip stitch. Pick up the loop farther from you, from below, and draw through the reserved yarn tail. Adjust it slightly. Finally, weave in the yarn tail on the wrong side following the texture. The method is pretty simple, so I won't demonstrate it again. This concludes the crocheting of the main piece. Next, we'll make and attach the tassel decorations. There are 2 different sizes. The method for making and attaching them is the same. Let's start by learning how to make them. Here, I'll demonstrate how to make a small one. To make it more easily, you'll need a piece of cardboard that is 5 centimeters wide. Next, take any color from the remaining yarn. Cut a strand about 20 centimeters long. And place it at the top of the cardboard. Then wrap the yarn around the cardboard. Wrap it for a total of 3 rounds. Pay attention to both ends of the strand. Don't include them in the wrapping. If you want a more plump one, you can wrap a few more rounds. Then, cut off the yarn. Align the spare yarn ends. Tie a knot. Cut the loops at the bottom of the cardboard. Adjust it slightly. Pull tight the yarn ends. Tie a double knot. Take another piece of yarn, about 10 centimeters away from the end, fold it to form a loop. Then, about 1 centimeter down from the top of the tassel, wrap it around a few times from bottom to top. Make sure the loop is exposed. After that, pull tight. Cut off the yarn. Thread the tail through the loop. Pull the starting yarn tail tight. Then use the crochet hook to pull this yarn tail through. Adjust it slightly. Cut off the excess yarn tail. A small tassel is done. I will now explain how to make a large one. The method is the same as for the small tassel. It's just a different size. The size of the cardboard needed and the exact number of rounds can be referenced from the chart. When wrapping the yarn here, do it 2 centimeters away from the top. The method is pretty simple, so I won't demonstrate it. That concludes the explanation of how to make the tassels. Next, I'll explain the placement of the tassels. Small tassels are attached at the center of the right side of each motif. 2 tassels on each motif. Which motifs they go on is random. The total quantity to be attached is also random. Now let's take a look at the large tassels. There are 4 in total, each attached to one corner. Let me show you the specific attaching method. Here, I'll use a small tassel as an example. Find the center of the right side of any motif. Pull the yarn tail at the top of the tassel through the piece at the corresponding position. Pull one of the yarn tails through from a nearby position. Be mindful not to pull it too tight, so that the tassel can hang naturally. Then tie the 2 yarn tails in a double knot. Weave in the ends following the texture. The method is the same as before, and it's quite simple, so I won't demonstrate it again. That's how you attach a tassel. You also need to attach another one in the same position. The method is the same, so I won't demonstrate it again. Next, let me explain how to attach a large tassel. You can pull one of the yarn tails through the corresponding position. Then tie the 2 yarn tails in a double knot and weave them in on the wrong side. Be mindful not to pull the yarn too tight when tying the knot. The method is pretty simple, so I won't demonstrate it. That concludes the explanation of making and attaching tassels at the same time. The blanket is also complete. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach us via our website. Susan's Family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.